Welcome to the Car Guys, and back by popular demand we have our top 10 Porsche.
We've got a great list for you guys. This is honestly the definitive list of Porsches in the entire world. And I realise that you think we're going to do 911s only, but we're not.
And also, probably best to highlight just how impossible it is to come up with a definitive top 10 of Porsche, because there's so many that are fantastic, and no matter what list we come up with, you are going to think that we're completely wrong.
Yes, you are.
So we're on to a complete loser before we even start.
Expect the comments to be fiery and very, very nasty.
Okay, so Jason, here I am. I'm actually sitting, in honour of this video, I'm actually sitting inside my 1989 911 Turbo right now.
Brilliant.
And this is going to be our top 10 Porsche of all time. Note, not top 10 911, top 10 Porsche, which is an almost impossible task.
Honestly, I have spent days and days agonising over this list, trying to come up with something that wasn't just 911s focused, because it is so impossibly hard to come up with a top 10. I can't tell you how bad it is. It's ridiculous.
It could have been top 40, to be honest, because Porsche have done so many good cars.
Yeah, we could have been doing this. This could be a 2-hour video, easily. Don't worry, folks, it's not a 2-hour video.
Although I think we've come up with a pretty decent list, which of course everyone's going to dispute, there are, of course, a large number of honourable mentions which just aren't in the list and which people will be outraged for, and we'll go through those ones at the end of this episode.
Okay, that sounds like an incredibly good plan, because otherwise I think we'd like to get ran out of town with pitchforks and blazing torches. It's going to be that controversial.
Essentially what we've done is Jason's come up with his top 5, I've come up with my top 5. We've sort of looked at each other's a bit to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes and we're not coming up with the same models, and we've kind of sort of come up with a consensus really of the ones that we'd go for. But we could have just gone on and on and on with this list, because every time you come up with the top 10 list, you'd go, oh, what about this? Oh no, we've left that out. Of course, it's never going to be right, this list. It's merely a list, what we have come up with today. And so, Jason, go on then, in no particular order. So this list is not in particular order, but Jason, crack on with your first choice.
My very first choice has got to be the 917 Porsche, yes, because it just sits, and I don't know if you can just about see behind me a picture of one at the Le Mans in 1971. It is such an iconic car. The shape of it is amazing. The engine is just incredible. Flat 12. To hear one of those cars running is just it's an outer-worldly experience. It really is. Yeah. And it just beat everybody. It just basically went out there and caned everybody.
I mean, that shape, it's just the perfect race car shape. Stick it in a bit of Golf livery. You know, to be honest, any of the liveries, you know, the white and red one, the green one, the Golf one, I mean, they just all look fantastic. Whether it's the K, whether it's the long tail.
The flat 12 was 2 flat 6 engines welded together, essentially, to produce this 4-litre 630cc. I've done some research on this, and you know, they start at around 600 horsepower, and then by the time that they were done racing, they were around 1400 horsepower.
Oh my goodness.
In a car that essentially weighed 800 kilos. So let's just put it into kind of some kind of perspective. Is a car that weighs as much as the Fiat 500 with us two in it, yep, is how much a wet 917 weighs with 1400 horsepower.
Do you think we're ever going to get to drive one of these cars?
I can't see it unless one of us becomes a billionaire and we can buy one. I can't see it, which is a sad thing to acknowledge. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it just blows your mind, doesn't it? Blows your mind.
in comparison, a mere tiddler in Porsche's history, but my first choice today is the 964 RS 911.
Yeah.
So this is a car that for me, I totally agree with Chris Harris in that in the 90s, I used to much prefer the 993 shape, and I always looked at the 964 as if it was this horrible sort of choppy, angular relic. But as time has progressed, I think the 964 body shell is the perfect 911, the right size, exactly the right proportions. And in the 964 RS, guys, it obviously sits lower and it just looks absolutely perfect on the road.
I couldn't agree more. But looks wise, that car is absolutely spot on. It's everything you'd want a Porsche to be. The only car I would say that looks slightly better is a bad boy spec turbo with split rims.
Back in the day, these cars were bought and sold regularly for the sort of 20 to 25,000 pound mark. You used to pop over to Thomas Schmidt's, you used to buy your 964 RS, you'd bring it back to the UK, you'd track it, you'd drive the hell out of them, you'd maybe mod them a little bit, but I mean, you're always buying and selling them as if it was just like confectionery. Now that they have ascended into the stratosphere and they now cost sort of anywhere between 120 and 200,000 pounds, they're obviously become a little bit more mythical and certainly unobtainable. But you know, when I was into cars and doing lots of track days, these things were everywhere and you could pick them up for buttons.
Yeah, and you could pick them up and people would crush them and no one cared because there was another one down the road for another 20 grand. It was exactly. Crazy how cheap they were.
You know, 0 to 60, mid fives, only 260 brake horsepower for goodness sake, but because it weighs 1,200 kilograms, you're getting 160 mile an hour top speed. It's just a great car, but it's more than the numbers, I think, that car. It's just the fact that you feel like you are in a race car on the road. So Jason, then on to choice number 2 for you.
Okay, so this is another racing car, another very iconic racing car, the 935 Moby Dick. The reason this is in the list is because of the shape of the car. I don't have much knowledge or memories of this car racing, so every time I see one it just catapults me back to my childhood and sitting there at the kitchen table creating this beautiful Airfix model. And then interestingly, that whole car, it led to so many different things as well. The flat nose was a factory option, and it was a factory option because they wanted it on the racing car, and you couldn't just do those types of aerodynamic changes to it. You had to come up with homologations and you had to come up with special rule changes and loopholes, and so that's why you could order a flat nose version of a 911. The wings and the additional, you know, side pods on it were all due to loopholes in regulations, trying to find better ways of getting aerodynamics onto it. So it started off as a very humble 911 turbo, and it just grew from there depending on what racing series it was in.
And actually pretty similar performance figures to the 917.
Very similar. Again, another car that once it was twin turbocharged and up in stratospheric rev ranges, it was pulling well over 1,000 horsepower when it was finished.
So any top 10 list that we do, or certainly that I am participating to, I've got to try and shoehorn in at least one of my cars. And out of the 3 Porsche that I own, I've gone for the magnificent 991.2 GT3 Touring, which to me is all the 911 that you will ever need. It does everything you want fantastically. It's got the noise, it's got the handling, it's got the looks. I just think it's perfect, which is why I suppose I'm not really spending any time thinking about the 992 GT3.
When you get in it just feels right. Before you even select first gear and pull up the clutch, that car feels right. The driving position is absolutely spot on. The seats are perfectly sighted. I've not driven anything. I honestly haven't driven anything that's as good as that. It's such a complete package.
You just jump into it and go. You don't have to acclimatise. Everything falls exactly to hand. Manual gearbox. You know, it's just fantastic. It gives you all the right tingly bits in all the right tingly places.
Yeah, for sure. And it can be incredibly frightening if you want it to be, but most of the time it's just really, really competent, very easy to drive quickly, and an incredible laugh. I mean, it's such a great car.
0 to 60 is just shy of 4 seconds, so it's, you know, it's reasonable, but it's not bonkers. Nearly 500 brake horsepower, nearly 200 miles an hour. It's just all you need. You don't really need anything more than that, but it's the sensations through the steering wheel and through your arse that really make that car.
I like the fact it doesn't have the rear wing. If they put rear seats in it, which I think they should because it's a touring, it would be the perfect 911.
Your next choice, Mr. Jason.
Okay, so this is a real childhood dream car, this one. This is the Porsche 928.
I think this is going to be the one you're going to get the most flack for, actually.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And because most people think that it's an Audi, although it isn't actually, it is a Porsche-derived V8. Porsche were trying to move away. They were trying to find a replacement for the 911. They wanted to go more luxury and upmarket, and they produced the 928. It had 4 seats in it. It was a proper luxury cruiser, like, you know, GT cars storming across up and down the motorways. Yeah, and I just loved it when it came out. It had a really interesting shape, that really curved round back on it. Yeah, for me, it just reminds me of being a kid and seeing them down the road. I was quite a bit awestruck by it, to be honest.
For me, the 928 is always risky business with Tom Cruise. That's where I cannot get that out of my mind. That's just the way that they come together. I just love it. I've never truly coveted a 928. I've always found it a bit too heavy.
I'm actually spending quite a lot of time on eBay now looking at 968s, 928s and anything in between, and they can be had for some very reasonable money. Just saying.
Dangerous talk.
Okay, let's go. What have you got next?
My next one is a biggie. It's a car that many people who watch the Car Guys believe that we should already own. It's a tricksy son of a bitch. It's killed people, and it is magnificent, and it is, of course, the Carrera GT. I mean,
it couldn't not be in the list, could it?
No.
We could never have done this list and left that out.
No.
It would be foolish. I have to say, as much as I love it, and I do love everything about it, especially the wooden gear knob, which was actually taken from the 917 or one of the early race cars because it saved weight. So it's a kind of handoff between those two, which is lovely.
Yeah, that's always going to make the difference, isn't it? The bloody gear knob.
The gear knob, exactly. My only issue with it at the moment is that everybody seems to have one.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Lots of people seem to have gone, oh yeah, I fancy one of those, I think I'm going to get one. Whereas they were in obscurity almost for the last 10-15 years.
I think it's surprising how many Car Guys fans own them as well, and who've come out the woodwork. I mean, it's probably the car that is owned by the most Car Guys fans, actually. People in the know appear to know and have known about this car for a long time. They also know how to drive them so that you don't wear the clutch out, because that's obviously one of the most expensive items. They know which cars to buy in the first place so they don't get one where the shock absorbers have all leaked out and cost a fortune. And then you're left with a glorious manually powered V10 Formula One car, essentially. It is a beautiful thing. It suits pretty much all colours. There aren't really that many Duff CGTs out there. And
I can't think of any.
Exactly. I mean, that yellow one that we saw at Octane, that looks spectacular. The silver looks spectacular. I've seen it in black. They look incredible. If you're a fan of Porsche, which I think we can quite safely say that we are, it's something that you have to experience at some point in your life.
It's almost like it was a secret club where the people who knew, everyone went, what's the Carrera GT like? And they go, oh, it's a nightmare to drive. The clutches just blow all the time. Oh, you wouldn't want to get one of those. Why have you still got yours? Oh, because I can't shift it because no one wants them. It's almost like that kind of thing, isn't it? Nod, nod, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It's the car equivalent of sort of like the funny handshake or the little pinky ring.
Exactly. Yeah. If you've got a Carrera, I've got one. Right. We're telling everyone it's shit, right? Yeah.
On to your next choice. What have we got?
So my next choice, and we intimated this a little bit earlier, 964 Turbo in black with split rims. That's it. That's all I need to say.
Bad boys.
Bad boys. Bad boys.
Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do?
That's it.
Yeah, you've always loved this, haven't you?
I've always loved it. Octane has one, or had one, that was perfect. It just looked like the perfect car. The body shape, it's just the whale tail spoiler on the back. Everything about it just shouts early 90s. Everyone going for it. Just such a fantastic car. Such a fantastic car.
Yeah, I think 80% of the appeal of that car is the stance,
Yep.
the way it sits.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a bit of lag in it. It's a good car, but it's not a great car necessarily to actually drive. They can be, you know, quite skittish and quite difficult to drive. But my God, look at the way that it goes along the road.
I know, right? I mean, that's almost one of those cars where it doesn't matter how it drives, because you'll probably spend more time just standing looking at it than you will be trying to rag it.
But which are you? Are you Martin Lawrence or are you Will Smith?
I think I'm probably more Will Smith. I think you're probably more
Really?
Martin Lawrence. Yeah, a bit more.
I'm pretty sure it's the other. I'm pretty sure I'm Will Smith and you're Martin Lawrence.
Always the way. Always the way.
Okay, my penultimate choice is a car that I've almost bought, probably 2 or 3 times. It is Jerry Seinfeld's favourite car. It is Spike Feresten's favourite car. It's Paul Zuckerman's favourite car. The 356 Speedster. Is there a more beautiful car? It is just so simple. I'm obsessed with this, and I almost bought 1/2 cars at DK Engineering. I went up to see them. They had a sort of aquamarine car with red interior, and then a white car, I think, with blue interior, and they were so gorgeous that I could not choose between them, and I seriously considered buying both.
Yeah, I think even I suggested that probably wasn't such a great idea.
The Speedster was obviously, it was the brainchild really of the Porsche importer in the US, Max Hoffman, and he convinced Porsche to create this car. It was obviously a favourite of James Dean, and when you look at this thing, it's performance figures by today's standards are laughable. 0 to 60 in just under 14 seconds. It's got a top speed of 99.
Ooh.
and it delivers all the raw aggression of 60 brake horsepower, but it weighs less than 800 kilos, and it's just a fantastic undiluted 50s driving experience, and obviously it's completely open air, so you just get all the senses, all the smells, all the sights. I just think it's an utterly mega car.
I think in this country, maybe not so much fun as it would be in California.
Now on to your final choice in the top 10.
The Porsche 959. That is my last one on my list. This came out at the same time as the F40. There was this hypercar, supercar race between various manufacturers to go over 200 miles an hour, to do all this clever stuff. And Ferrari did it in a very raw race car way. So very simple, lightweight car with a great big engine in the back with massive turbochargers.
Cocking big set of turbos.
Cocking great big turbochargers. And Porsche did it they were much more German about it, so they were much more technical and detailed.
Exactly.
And it did things like, over a certain speed, the suspension automatically dropped by a couple of, millimeters in order to make it even slipperier through the air. The spoiler came up and moved electronically at certain miles an hour. And the look was great as well. That kind of soft, I'm not sure it's aged as well, because it's a bit too jelly mouldy.
Yeah. Again, though, quite expensive to maintain, and now values have actually shot back up. So back when they were 100,000, it was attainable, but now they are really starting to move. And don't even talk about the S. The very rare S. I mean, goodness me. Right. So my last choice and the final car in the Car Guys top 10 Porsche of all time. What's it going to be? What's it going to be, ladies and gentlemen? What's it going to be?
Drum roll.
It is the 997 GT3 RS 4 litre, the 4.0.
car.
Now this one, again, I have never owned one of these cars, but I've come close. Octane has regularly got these cars in left and right hand drive and some paint to sample, some standard. Obviously the 888 MF YouTube channel, he's got 2 of these cars. I think this is, again, one of those ultimate variants of the 911. It's just the right weight, just the right size. It's got that incredible engine, and it's widely regarded as one of the finest 911s in the world.
I have a vivid memory of being in the 675 LT at Goodwood, hacking down the back of Goodwood Racing Circuit.
That's
or
right.
at least I thought we were hacking down the back of Goodwood Racing Circuit.
Yeah, we thought we were pressing on, didn't we?
We thought we were really pressing on, didn't we? We thought we are literally having it down here. And we got passed by a white one of these with a grey stripe, driven by
Max Chilton.
Driven by the Formula One race driver Max Chilton, who came past us like we were just standing still. Honestly, it was embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing.
Jesus Christ.
I thought he wasn't.
He is a nutter, that guy. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure we'd slowed down for, probably a yellow flag or something. I think we...
Oh, all right, okay, yeah. So, yeah, we were on a cool-down lap or something
He
like
dangerously overtook us during a safety car situation.
Oh, something like that, like every Formula One driver. Yeah, it was embarrassing. Basically, everyone says that this is the greatest 911 GT car ever built, ever, bar none. 911 GT car.
Yeah.
Even better than the GT2 RS.
Well, yeah, that was it for me. The GT2 RS came a close sort of second for that final choice, and I was agonising for ages. But I just think the immediate power delivery and the balance of this car, I think makes it special. Plus, there's only 600 of them, so it is actually a limited car. I looked at buying one, a right-hand drive one, and I think one came up in Dick Lovett, and it was £525,000. At the peak, this was.
That's still a lot of change for essentially a 911 GT3 with a bigger engine bolted on the back.
Yeah, slightly bigger.
It's an amazing car and well deserved on this list for sure.
So there you go, folks. What do you think? That's the Car Guys top 10 Porsche of all time. We cannot wait for you to deluge us with your comments and thoughts on this list, as well as a phenomenal list of cars that we definitely should have included and that we're absolute morons for not including. We said we'd mention the honourable mentions. Obviously, the car that I'm in at the moment, the 1989 Turbo, the 930, honourable mention to that. The 911S from the 60s, the 911R, the most recent one, came within a gnat's whisker of getting onto this list.
And still may be coming within a gnat's whisker of being part of the Car Guys garage as well, because I know you covet that car a lot.
I do covet that car. I know. I've never pushed the button, but I do love it. The 993 Turbo S came very close. There's been 2 of those that I've almost bought. One at Ashgood. They had a midnight blue one. And there's also one at the moment at the Octane collection. The 993 GT2. How the hell did that not get on the list, for goodness sake? I mean, oh my God.
With the bolt-on arches,
yep.
I mean...
Yep, exactly.
We were clearly completely remiss and half asleep when we made the list. We are idiots.
The very latest 911 GT2 RS, which is a phenomenal car. 997 Sport Classic. Always had a bit of a soft spot for those. So many cars that could have gone in, and to even attempt to make a top 10 Porsche is perhaps a foolish errand, but it's too late now. We've done it. We've done it. You're watching it. You're shouting at us. We don't care. Yeah. We're there. We've done it. So there you go.
It's in the past.
Hope you enjoyed this episode.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to leave comments because we read them all. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell for when we have another episode uploaded. Find us on Instagram and our website, and don't forget to buy that merch.
There will be another Car Guys episode along next week.